Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show for Monday, May the 5th. I guess today's Cinco de Mayo. Is that a holiday somewhere? I don't even know why. I used to know what Cinco de Mayo is, and then I remembered that I'm American, and I don't actually care. And I don't drink margaritas anymore, so maybe that was something I cared about when I was a lot younger. We got kind of a grab bag of things going on, and I kept looking for a thread through today's news stories, and the only thing I could determine was that there is no standard unless it's a double standard. That's the only thing that's going on out there. But this is a common theme in America today. So I guess it's just as reasonable to talk about double standards, to get into some of this. What I see is a left that is confused. They're not sure how to message what it is they want. What they want is not whatever Donald Trump says. So if he wants to deport illegal aliens, they want to keep him. If he wants to talk about law and order, then they're going to be against that. So we've got stories about Alcatraz. We've got stories about mothers being ripped from their kids' arms. We've got stories of kids being kept in their mother's arms. It's kind of a mess. We're seeing stories about Donald. I've got a clip of Donald Trump talking about Nancy Pelosi doing stock trades that seem immoral and unethical and questionable, the things that we all kind of know that our members of Congress are doing insider trading. And then you find out that Marjorie Taylor Greene did the same thing with Palantir. Now, the dollar amount probably isn't as much, but, you know, if you could make $9,000 or $10,000 a trade any given week, you'd be doing better than you are today, most likely. If you happen to be sitting on a place where information comes your way and you can turn around and use it for your own profit. No proof that that's what's going on, but trends are trends. Members of Congress tend to be worth a lot more after they've been in Congress for a little while. Access to that information and power is not nothing. We're talking about double standards, and if not for the double standard, would we have any standard in this country at all? It turns out I think we used to actually have an idea of what America was about, and we're going to go kind of touch on some of these things. A lot of the issues that we are dealing with today are directly a result of trying to hold to standards that should probably change because the status quo has changed. Interesting enough. This is the fact that we live in a place that has a welfare state, that has all kinds of safety nets that didn't used to exist. Without those safety nets, you could do things one way. You can't continue to do both things at once. So people are arguing out of both sides of their mouth. That's where we're going today. I hope that is going to be interesting. And at least the number of stories that I found that I think are going to keep us covering that topic, they're pretty significant. All right, before we get started, we're going to talk about my friends over at Silent. Guys, they are a Faraday manufacturer. They are making a bunch of high-quality products, including ones that are sitting on my desk right now. This is one of their sleeves. I think I use it every single day. Between government, big tech, corporate America, criminals, scammers, we talked about some of that stuff on the Sunday sit-down. Your privacy is in constant threat of being compromised. There's a 24/7 assault on that. One of the ways that you can protect yourself is by going silent, slnt.com/KYLE. What they can do is help kind of protect your RF signature. In the counterintelligence world that I used to work in with the FBI, we talk about a thing called ubiquitous technical surveillance. That is all of the RF signals that are being emitted from you and your devices and your person. Your vehicle, it could be your watch, it can be your phone. All of the different technologies that are around you are putting off a signal, and you can be tracked with all of those things. If you want to reduce some of that stuff or make it completely eliminated, you have to put stuff into Faraday products, and this is one of the ways you can do it. Go silent at slnt.com/KYLE. You'll save 15% on any of the qualifying orders, plus you'll get free shipping. Phone sleeves. They've got backpacks. The backpacks are actually very great. I've got one of them sitting behind me. I've got a number of their sleeves, and the E3 Faraday backpack is also one that's kind of covert looking. In other words, it doesn't scream like, look at me, I'm a tech, cool, tactical guy. What it says is, I have a regular backpack, and I also want to be able to keep my laptop, my tablet, my phone, etc., not emitting all the information that somebody else can walk by and hack. In any case, all you got to do is put your device inside, close it up. You're safeguarded from unauthorized access. It's silent, slnt.com/KYLE. Check them out. Use our promo code over there to get 15% off, which is a pretty decent discount. You're going to get free shipping on qualified orders. Check them and support them. We will continue on. Let's get started with the double standard for this Monday. All right. Whenever they're tugging on heartstrings, whenever words like the American dream has been ripped away, I know that it's going to be something I am interested in talking about, if only because these are dishonest actors. Here's a good story. This is coming straight out of CNN. I don't always start with CNN, but this is CNN's America's section. Deported from Florida to Cuba, this mom saw her 17-month-old U.S. daughter and her American dream ripped away. This reminds me of something that Ben Shapiro used to talk about quite a bit. We're also going to talk about another Ben Shapiro concept. A lot of these things were formed in my head when I sat working for the Bureau and I was listening to the same way you guys do, a podcast on the way into work and a podcast on the way home. I do far less of that now that my commute is 90 seconds going up and down, just a pair of stairs or a flight of stairs. There are two things that always stuck with me. One, he said the American experiment, it never guaranteed you success. What it did was give you the opportunity to take the adventure, to take the ride. But a lot of people died on that ride. A lot of people did not survive the trip. We didn't stop them from trying, but there was no guarantee that you would be so successful. And some people got it and some people didn't. The American dream is not the American guarantee. The second thing Shapiro used to always talk about was the so-called strange new respect that people on the right get whenever they align with the mission and the priorities of the political left. And there are countless examples of them. We're going to talk about one of them in a minute. In the same way that George W. Bush suddenly became a statesman after they called him literally Hitler as well. And they were so mad about war crimes and WMDs and all the things while he was a potential political foe. They're doing the same thing to Mike Pence right now. So I find that interesting. I'm just going to read some of this. Havana, Cuba. In a dilapidated home on the outskirts of Havana, Heidi, I think that's her name, Sanchez, shows off photos from a past life. She flips through images on her iPhone, visits to SeaWorld with her husband and 17-month-old daughter, and the couple dressed up in Santa attire just for Christmas. I don't know if it was the American dream, but it was my dream. My family, Sanchez said. That dream and that family were ripped away in late April when Sanchez was deported from Florida to her native Cuba, even though both her daughter and her husband are U.S. citizens, and she wasn't. She crossed into the United States from Mexico in 2019 during the first Trump administration. They required asylum seekers to wait on the other side of the border for appointments as part of the Remain in Mexico program. But then she said, because of threats from the cartel, which targeted Cubans for kidnappings and extortions, she was unable to make her appointment, so she decided to just sneak across. So you made a choice, and in America, we have this dream that you have consequences for all your choices. Some of those choices are very good, and you're rewarded for doing well, like you took a risk and you started a business. Maybe you thought, I have an idea that nobody else does. I'm going to go out and market it. I'm going to put my money and maybe even somebody else's money. I'm going to go pitch this idea and other people are going to align their interests. And we're going to move forward and attempt to create something out of nothing. We're going to create a fair exchange. And then there's some people who say, you know what, that's too much for me. I'm not interested in doing the American dream the way other people did. I want to do my version of the American dream, which means I would like some things. I don't have the patience to follow the rules. And so I'm going to gamble. And maybe it works out for you. Maybe it works out for you for 30 or 40 years. We're seeing people that are being deported and people screaming, this is my husband. He's been here for 30 years. He never harmed anybody except he has a detention thing. And he's been actually listed as someone who should be removed from the United States by the government. He paid his taxes. Well, then he paid for this too. Sounds like he was paying for the government to do its job. How interesting is that? I heard this local news story, which I'm going to play for you right now, and I don't know that it has a one-to-one relationship, but it's a broader picture that I continue to see of the discussion of illegal aliens. They're just like us. They're regular people. And then it's like, yeah, but some of them aren't. And they've already decided to do one thing that they shouldn't have done. And that can catch up for you. Every single one of you probably has something in your background where you're like, oh, I really hope that I've moved past that. Everybody's got something small. Maybe it's a small dishonesty. Maybe it's something that you told your kids one day and it's not true. Maybe it's a stolen valor. We're finding this out all the time with politicians who lie about something. I saw a Louisiana judge over the weekend. I was reading the story of a Louisiana judge who claimed to have been a captain, even though she never made it up past first lieutenant. She had been removed from her position as a first lieutenant, I think twice. She never made it up to the rank that she claimed she was. There's no pictures of her in that uniform. She doesn't have the paperwork to back up. And then she ran for office and said she did things she didn't do. And those people, I assume they are preying on the vulnerabilities, on the attention span. We are so scattered that you cannot look into every single thing all at once. So you just go, oh, okay. Well, people wouldn't be dishonest with me, would they? And yet all of our experience tells us that there's a small fraction of people that are going to be brutally honest, and then a bunch of people that are willing to just use us, to take advantage of our trust. We are a high trust society here in the United States. You can leave your door open. You can leave your garage door open and drive off and go to work all day long and nobody will go into your home. That's pretty good. And the odds are maybe one of your neighbors will call it out. They might reach out. They might even go in and close your garage door and jump out and then be on your security cam footage and be telling you to your Ring cam, hey, I saw your garage door was open. I live 5 doors down. I wanted to fix your problem for you. I've thought about doing stuff like that. I don't want to get shot. I live in Texas. So I'm kind of always balancing that thing. I don't want to invade someone's personal autonomy, but I don't want my neighbors to be at risk. We have a high trust society. It continues to be the case. The way that you destroy a high trust society is by bringing people who do not operate under the same levels of trust that we expect from the people that live here. It's right here. Even the news media is doing that yeoman's work to destroy some of that trust-based society. Because when I read this, I think, oh, something really happened. She had an American dream. What's wrong? Well, what's wrong is that you 6 years ago decided to break American immigration law, and then you never went about fixing it because you just thought if I ignore it long enough, it will go away. This is from a local story out of Texas. He's a murder suspect with a lengthy criminal record. When you hear the details of the story, I'm going to tell you the one thing that popped out on me that is so crazy. Because a lot of times in this nation, you can get away with a ton of things until the bill comes due. And when the bill comes due, hopefully someone else isn't paying it. In this case, it seems like a family and a father ended up paying that bill. There's a lot more to it. And like I said, the craziest thing in there is not explained at all. I just want to play this local news story about an illegal alien who decided to murder somebody and had no right to be in this country. But there's more and more of it because our compassion-based high trust society allowed this to happen. Here we go.
Wearing a gym tank and wasting no time when the door opened. Surveillance video appears to capture 36-year-old Andreas Fernandez de La Paz shooting once. Screams followed. He tried to kick the door back open, then ran off to leave in his purple Maserati. The bullet hit 34-year-old Edieski Incencio Pinero in the chest, a father and husband who died at the hospital after being shot in front of his own family. His wife calls him a wonderful person. She doesn't have any bad memories of him and says he was a good father and friend. It's a difficult situation, she says. Fernandez de La Paz is her ex-brother-in-law, who, according to court records, threatened to kill the family and flee to Mexico. He allegedly shot 2 men and killed one of them in the past, but records show prosecutors dismissed that murder case in 2017, citing self-defense issues. And since 2022, a law enforcement source tells KPRC2 News Fernandez de La Paz has been leading a credit card skimming operation across Texas. Arrested in 2023, Sour Lake, Texas police confirm they caught him with skimming devices during a traffic stop after he placed one at a gas pump. Days later, sources say the FBI took over the investigation, but no federal charges got filed. Then last fall, captured in this surveillance image at a retail chain. A source says he was caught using stolen credit card information to buy high-dollar items through the store's app, landing him in the Fort Bend County Jail. He got released both times when records show Fernandez de La Paz had an ICE detainer. He's been in the country illegally since 2016, was ordered removed in 2019, and ICE tells KPRC2 News in a statement the Cuban government refused to accept his return at that time, preventing ICE from carrying out his removal.
Oh, okay, so that's another Cuban, not related to this lady per se, but coming from the same place, also decided to come here illegally, this time in 2016 instead of 2019, but he was listed as being deportable in 2019. And you guys, I put the chat up here real quick because you caught on to the thing that I thought was also pretty wild. He was caught in a purple Maserati. Are there any Maserati owners in our listener group? I sort of doubt it. I just don't feel like that's the kind of people that we're attracting here. Maybe you're a car guy. Maybe you went out and spent a bunch of money on an Italian sports car. They never even seemed like a really good investment to me, but I see them around in Austin sometimes. You go out and if you go slower, like some of the tech money, people decided to buy a Maserati for some reason. How interesting. He killed 2 men, but it was self-defense. So he got the constitutional sort of presumption that he had a right to do certain things, like defend himself in a nation that he had no right to be in. And how did he get himself paid? How did he maintain his status? It sounds like he did it through credit card scams and stealing from people by being dishonest, breaking that high trust society we have, right? Heard another thing in there that was kind of interesting. He was picked up by state police doing the local thing that local and state police do, which is investigate crime, incidentally contact members of the public, investigate them, and find out that they have, evidence of a crime on them. People always implicate themselves and things like that. Okay, fine. And then the FBI picked up the case. And that's why he's still running around. Because our ineffective federal law enforcement decided to pick up the case, put it on the back burner, decided it was one of those cases that we have, but we don't really care about. He's a nonviolent, he's a low priority threat. Probably wasn't even that much money when we're talking about how much is being skimmed from credit cards on any given days. Do you think it was a 7-figure amount of money he stole? Unlikely. Does the United States Attorney's Office care that much? So they took it from the state police, held onto it at the federal level, and this guy was around to go and shoot a father, who also, the wife of that man, sounded like she didn't speak English either. Do we think that she was here legally? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Doesn't get into that part of the story, but I bet you there's a lot more to it. High trust society gets destroyed, gets ripped apart when people do not operate in that same sphere, that same type of trust. Our media can't decide what they like best. So here is another story. Okay, remember, first story here, deported, mom, ripped away from her U.S.-based daughter. Now we got this one. Newborn U.S. citizen and Guatemalan mom detained as she faced deportation. Well, which one do we want? Do we want to take the kids apart from the mom because the kid is a U.S. citizen? The mom doesn't belong here. She's here illegally. Do we keep the mom and the kid together like you'd expect any civilized group of people? This is NBC, so a little different than CNN. They can't figure out what they want. She's a Guatemalan woman who came to give birth to an American baby less than a week ago, now being held along with their newborn as she faces deportation. Well, what is it that you guys want? You want kids in cages with moms? Do you want mom ripped away from baby and then this baby basically left to be sociopathic and have no mother's love? I mean, the story is tragic. Where do we assign the blame to this kind of stuff? It seems really straightforward to me. All you got to do is go, okay, you came here illegally, mom. You broke the law. You came into our nation. We have this screwed up system where we consider you a citizen just because you plopped out on our soil, despite the fact that you have absolutely no right to anything here. And now you get what? All the benefits of American citizenship and the safety net that comes along with it. And you're indigent. So we're going to give you CAID? Medicare is for older people. I always forget that. Yeah, Medicaid. You're going to get Medicaid and you're going to pay for all your medical stuff. This is not, you have no skin in the game in this country. They can't figure out which one they like worse. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said that the woman was apprehended by Customs and Border Patrol agents, hospitalized because we are such a civilized group of people that if we find you breaking into our home, that we will take you to a hospital. I've been to those bedsides, by the way. You know what happens a lot of times? Somebody will come in. They had plans on how to get over the border wall. This is going back to like 2011 or 2012. I was working in Tucson and I would do some rotations. So we did some of the stuff on the southern end of Tucson. We would catch people that had needed more urgent care than Nogales could handle. So they would climb up the 25-foot border wall that existed at the time. They would have a plan to get over into the United States, but not how to get down into the United States safely. So they would climb up over the fence, fall off the fence, break one or two legs, be unable to move, be rescued by our law enforcement patrols, and then taken to a hospital, because that's how we operate. That's what a high trust society does. We assume the best of people, and we don't let people just die because they came into our custody and they did so illegally, and they rolled out into a desert with no plan on how to survive. Their plan is to rely on American hospitality, and more importantly, to rely on our empathy for our neighbor because we are a Christian nation, whether you like it or not. You don't have to be Christian for it to be a Christian nation. That's what all the values are based on. We value the poor, don't we? That's not a thing that's ever happened anywhere else. So they take these people, they put them in a hospital, and then the job of one Border Patrol agent in a green uniform, you've seen them before with a yellow badge, has to stand by that person's bed nonstop to maintain custody until they decide that they either cannot keep someone there. Let's say that they have a massive femur fracture and they're going to need surgeries, which, by the way, we all pay for. That's why your ER care is so expensive. We pay for it. And then all the way through rehabilitation and the entire time that that person has been admitted to the hospital, there is supposed to be a U.S. Border Patrol agent night and day keeping eyes on this person to maintain custody. And at some point, they have to pull that person because they can't keep an agent tied up. They cannot keep a Border Patrol agent or officer sitting there at all times because they've got other work to do because there's other a-holes jumping over our fence. If that person happens to be a pregnant lady, like in this case, she gave birth in the hospital, quote unquote, under supervision. She was discharged by the medical staff and then transferred into custody. Again, this is exactly what happens there. I saw this happen in Arizona over and over again. While I was there for maybe, 6 weeks or something to that effect, 6 weeks worth of running around in Arizona on the medical, between the ambulances and running around the various ERs and so on, I probably saw a half dozen of these cases. I'm just one guy, just hidden sporadically in the hospitals out there. And that was quite a bit of time ago. Shoot, that was going on 14 years ago. And the numbers were nowhere near as high as they are today. So what are we supposed to do with this? What are we supposed to do with a society that does that? We've had a declaration that these people are terrorists, right? People coming into this country illegally from Venezuela and so on. So maybe we should go out and celebrate the terrorists. That's what we would do in a polite and free society, right? We would go and give what I might call material support. By the way, there's some case law going back under, I think it was in 2019. I got to look at Steve Friend's text message. He said this is kind of one of those interesting little pieces where if you actually go out and positively cover a story that has something to do, it's called the Holder versus Humanitarian Law Project. It was a 2010 story, actually. If you give positive coverage to terrorist groups, you are potentially providing a thing called material support. There is a real world, whole number, dollar propaganda association with being able to talk about people being something they're not. So CNN is doing that work too. They rolled out and found some guys that were in TDA and they said, hey, we'd like to give you an opportunity to positively cover it. I'm going to read the subtitles on this. We're going to turn the volume down just a little bit, and I'm going to read it because it's all in Spanish. They muffle the guy's voice to defend him. Apparently, CNN knows where to find the so-called terrorists, and this guy doesn't say that he's not a terrorist. He says he respects Donald Trump's decision for it. Isn't that kind of interesting? I just want to play this because this is when our news media decides to pick up the ball and play for the wrong team.
According to the Trump administration, you are a terrorist. I mean, the cartels have been labeled foreign terrorist organization. What do you make of that?
He says, well, the situation is ugly, but we have to eat. Oh,
what's your message to Donald Trump if he's watching this?
My respect, he says. According to him, he's only looking out for his people. But the problem is that there are consumers in the United States. And if there weren't any consumers, we would have stopped. In other words, people here have a market or an appetite for illegal sex trafficking, drugs, take your pick. All the things that drives these businesses. Remember, cartels are multi-billion-dollar businesses. All of these criminal gangs that are involved in trafficking and moving this stuff, these are multi-billion-dollar businesses. They just have found themselves that their product that they provide and the routes that they do it are just against the law. So they've chosen not to operate in a way that the rest of polite society does. And they're not wrong. We do have an appetite for it in this country, whether it be for child, Ryan Mattis says that we are the biggest consumer of child pornography, of child sex trafficking, of child ritual sacrifice, and all kinds of other horrible things. Like, the American people have it so good. This society is so safe that you can get away with doing those things and the consequences are not dire. You're probably going to go to trial and you might get let off, just like that guy from Colombia. You might get multiple shots at the same apple to walk away. So at the end of the day, what do you need? You need someone with courage. You need people that have principles Talk about that in just 1 second. Because, of course, the people that the political left are going to celebrate are not the same ones that you and I might. Interestingly enough, it's a guy that a lot of us didn't think was great right from the beginning. We'll get there in 1 second. Before we do, let's pivot over to our friends over at Blackout Coffee. They do make a good product. They do actually have some character and grit, and they do make something that is being consumed at the Seraphin household by copious amounts. We've had 4 coffee drinkers instead of 2 over this weekend. We've been telling you about Blackout Coffee for a couple of months now. If you have not tried it, we can break it down. We had a taste test comparison against the normal thing that comes out of Costco that my parents normally drink. My dad sat down at the table, had some Blackout Coffee. We do the pitch black espresso, and he was like, oh yeah, I like this. I can tell the difference. So my mom makes note. She's going to make the order. This is not just another coffee brand. They are built on hard work and grit and American values. They're doing their own packaging. They started off the way that many other people do. The American dream, right? Home, garage, packing it out of their own home. Now running a 64,000 square foot warehouse. They're roasting all the beans in-house, packing all the orders themselves, employing Americans. Over 30 people there with no corporate nonsense. Just damn good coffee made by people who actually care. Again, taste test comparison passes the Seraphin family muster. And we're punching through it. We still have huge amounts of it because I've got 5 pounds in reserve and 5 pounds downstairs we're burning through. It's not just about making a great cup of coffee. You're supporting Americans and the American dream. You know, that thing CNN talks about being ripped away. Maybe these people actually have the right to do it. That's why they're here. They built the company up with no shortcuts, no woke nonsense, no weak beans. If you believe in hard work and real American values and coffee that gets you moving, you can make the switch to blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE. Use that promo code Kyle for 20% off your first order. Figure out how fast you go through it. Figure out the style you like. Put them on a reorder if you like. That's the way that we're doing it here. Support real coffee. Drink Blackout. Again, it's blackoutcoffee.com. blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE, that promo code Kyle. Don't drink weak coffee. Get your day started off the right way, the way we are too. I'm actually doing iced coffee right now, if you guys can believe that, because we have been burning through my normal pitcher and I didn't want to make another 2 liters. So I'm actually going with like last week's coffee. Still good. Put it in the fridge. Put it in a jar. You're good to go. Okay, as promised, there are people who have the courage of their convictions and doing the right thing to defend the Constitution. At least that's what the left tells you. This is tiring. This is coming from CBS. The former Vice President, Mike Pence, he got a Profile in Courage Award from the JFK Foundation. The Profiles in Courage for defending the Constitution. That's how gross we're going to be right now. Let's just read it. Let me find the story I've got here. There it is. There's his smiling face. He described the Constitution as what binds us all together. I mean, yeah. It does, except for the people that don't seem to care about it all that much. There's plenty of people in this country that use it only when it's convenient, in the same way they talk about rule of law. Only when it's convenient, the same thing they talk about are quote-unquote shared values. What about the shared values of accountability and hard work, which are very American? I've got this funny little clip of, and I wasn't sure where it was even going to work in, but I think we'll play it. This is from a movie called Long Shot, and it was a Seth Rogen movie. It ended up making a tiny little bit of money compared to what it was. I guess it made 20% over the top of what they spent on it. It was like a $53 million gross against a $40 million budget. So not a big movie for Seth Rogen. And it's a comedy-ish, but it's a political comedy. I'm going to get back to the Mike Pence thing in a second. This actually fits in right now. The idea that we actually share these things, the things that Christian values and caring about America and speaking to your neighbor and having commonality within those that live within your country because we all actually are in it together in a lot of ways. This movie does a pretty good job of telling us why we can't have conversations with the left about it right now. And there are certainly some people on the right that also do it. The nice thing about having standards is you're always going to upset people on both sides. I'm constantly doing that, I find out. People asked me the other day, they're like, hey, Kyle, what's your end game here? My end game is government accountability with small government. My end game is that our public servants do the thing that they said they would do when they said they would do it. That's it. It turns out I don't care. If Kash Patel is abusing our private jet, I got a problem with it. If Chris Wray is abusing our private jet, I got a problem with it. If Bernie Sanders and AOC are flying around on private jets and being hypocritical, I got a problem with it. It turns out I can take a shot at everybody because all of these people get in there and immediately forget principles. Again, I think this little clip is kind of telling. This may be the conversation I wish America would have, but I don't think we're having it. So let's take a little listen to this. It's got a bunch of swear words, so if you're at work, you might need to tune. Whoa, right? That was 2019. It's funny. It's clever. It hits pretty close to home. You got somebody who thinks it's cultural to wear a cross, and being called out for being racist. By the way, this is Seth Rogen, the guy who basically thinks that like, oh, Trump is the Antichrist, even though he doesn't believe in that sort of thing. Right? Isn't it interesting that like the reason that this hits home, the reason that this scene is actually of value, this is why that movie might actually be halfway decent. If they had the awareness to put this stuff up front, pull your stuff up by your bootstraps. God has a plan for all of us, right? And he said, it worked on me. It works on all of us, folks, because it works because that's the way that this country was set up. But part of it is you got to actually buy in the whole way. And that means Americans did not have a problem with legal immigrants and haven't for a very long time, because the system is long and drawn out, and it shows that you want it enough to deal with a bunch of crap. Have you ever gotten anything that cost you nothing that you valued highly? Odds are not. I listened to Tucker Carlson at the AmFest in 2022. We were standing there. We were right down in front of the stage. And he said, I've learned some things in my life, and almost none of them came from being successful. They almost always came from failure. The hardest things, the hardest lessons we learn often become the most valuable lessons for us. I think that's true in my life. It's likely true in yours. It's one of those universal pieces that when you suffer for something, you assign value to it. And then you look at the reason, like I'll just tell you real quickly in my own life. My wife, who now associates with a very Christian conservative stance, did not always. Grew up in New York, grew up with parents who are very much on the left, very comfortable on the left. And one of the things that radicalized her, put that in air quotes, radicalized her, took her out of her space, was that she did what a lot of people on the political left will do. And she actually put her money where her mouth is, which is more than most people. She went out and got a master's degree in mental health. She went out and began counseling people at a nonprofit for pennies on the dollar for what you can get in private practice. In private practice, people would make $75, maybe $100 an hour. They got to maintain their own shop. They're essentially doing something pretty conservative, which is that they're enacting the American dream by saying, I have a service, and if you want to pay for it, you can. Hang out your own shingle, right? That takes some guts. She did the thing that you would say that somebody on the left would want to go do. She worked for a nonprofit for like $13 an hour with a master's degree that cost 30 or 40 grand. Maybe more. I don't know what it was. It was like $20,000 or $30,000 a year. It was not cheap. It was a private school. So she goes out into the space and she begins giving people counseling services, the people who are most at risk, who are most vulnerable, who are most traumatized by their lives, bad decisions or whatever, tried to help them and realized that people would skip their appointments with her. Didn't care. Didn't keep the appointments, didn't even call to cancel because they valued it nothing. Not at all. They didn't show any value in it. She realized that if you don't charge people something, if they don't have some skin in the game, then it doesn't actually hold value for what they are. It may have a value to you because you're providing it, but that's not seen the same way. And that is what our country has gotten right now with people that have skipped over the border. If you can skip the line and you don't have to wait, then it's not worth something to you. People who came here that went through rigorous processes, you can talk to anybody that's done it. They have tears in their eyes when they do when they say the Pledge of Allegiance. They have tears in their eyes when they swear in as U.S. citizens. When they take an oath of loyalty to this country and the Constitution, it means something. Anybody who swears in as an enlisted troop that doesn't feel a little bit of emotion about the line of people that you are falling with, you're jumping in line with a group of people who are willing to die for principles that you probably don't even understand at 18 or 19, but you know how big it is. I was 27 when I swore in my first enlistment. And I remember it like knocking me over, like it catches you off guard. And I had that moment happen again over the weekend. We had a big weekend in the Seraphin household. We had a daughter who had her first communion. So entered the community of the church by receiving the body of Christ. That's a big deal for Catholics. I looked at some pictures of myself when I was in second grade. Kind of funny to see. I was a goofy looking little kid with some real big front teeth. I remember my second grade teacher very, very prominently, good person, formative in my life. And then I had a daughter baptized this weekend. And my wife and I had our marriage blessed in the Catholic Church, because even though we've been married for over, it's coming up on 12 years now, I think it's 12 years. I'll check it out. It'll be 12 years this summer. I should know that sort of stuff. We redid vows, and it still is an emotional thing because you're committing to something bigger than yourself. And it's something we put a lot of work into. You would think that when you are putting effort into something, you can assign the value to it. And when you come to this country without having the work of a decade behind you, of course you're going to go around and you can get a Maserati because you're willing to break laws and steal from people. It made me see this story. This is also a CNN. I got a couple others we're going to kind of punch through for the second half of the show, but Donald Trump is acting like whether it's his choice if he has to obey the Constitution. Trump is acting like it's his choice whether he obeys the Constitution, coming from Stephen Collinson, a Brit, by the way. Again, I didn't know that until I listened to him. I wouldn't even think of that. We have so many foreign commentators in our space. Why? Because America will accept you. But the difference is, this America, which used to actually say, everybody can come in, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, right? We didn't also say, and then we will pay for all your things and take care of you and give you free medical service. We said, give those people here, let them struggle and yearn to be free, let them come to this nation and then bust their ass. And maybe they succeed, and maybe they die trying. And a lot of them died trying. That used to be the deal. Donald Trump is not acting like it's his choice whether he obeys the Constitution. What he's saying is all the scaffolding of crap that you guys have built up around it, which I think this is a telling picture. This one's coming from CBS. It's a scaffolding of crap that they built up around the story of whether or not you have to obey the Constitution. The Constitution in and of itself is pretty straightforward and clear. It's not a long document, folks. You can take the entire Constitution, all of the Bill of Rights, every amendment afterwards, and a bunch of commentary and have it fit in a pocketbook that is smaller than your wallet and put it in your back pocket, which I encourage you to do. I carry around one in my range bag when I go to the range, and it's a legacy of when I was at the FBI Academy, and they gave me one, and I put it right there next to my rifle. Always. Whenever I shipped out on a trip for the counterterrorism mission we did, I went on 20 different deployments, they call them, around the country, 2-3 weeks at a time, to go watch bad guys. Every single time, I carried around a pocket Constitution with me as a reminder, because I've actually read it, like unlike a lot of these people that are crying about the Constitution. I read it, and it meant something to me, because I've sworn my life to it multiple times. Loyalty to that document, not to, like, some government agency. I never was loyal to the FBI. I was never loyal to the United States Air Force. It's a big deal. We had our call-in show the other day, and there was a really interesting point made. There is a difference between the oath of enlistment and the oath of officers. The officers are not sworn to be obedient to those officers above them in the same way. Our friend Stevie Wonder, who I think is in the chat this morning as well, pointed this out, and it's a useful thing. Our vets know something about what America is like and why. How about this court? This is the Supreme Court of the United States. Is apparently undergoing some renovations, so they keep showing pictures of like the current day. But that scaffolding, it looks hideous, doesn't it? There's if you're not seeing on the screen, I'm looking at the building of the Supreme Court. There's a building scaffolding. It goes up 4 or 5 stories, and it's got all of the facade of the Supreme Court wrapped up in it. And that is a lot like all these legal decisions we have that are just crap. You know, when you strip down to the original statements that were being made, the original reasons for putting together our federal government, it was to have a small federal government and not the one we do. There is no reason that federal law should say that we have to make sure that we bring in a baby. And even the thing that was written that's given quote unquote birthright citizenship, that was meant for freed slaves that had people that had skin in the game in this country. It wasn't that you just come in from Africa, you come in from Havana, you roll in from Guatemala, and you like give birth to a baby with nothing but like a week on this ground, and suddenly you are entitled to all the privileges of being a citizen here. You can do that under one circumstance and one circumstance only. That nothing comes along with citizenship, that you have to earn everything. But if citizenship also means that there's a safety net and we're willing to come and tax Kyle and you and take that money and put it into a pot and then give you free things. They said $22 billion went missing under Biden that was supporting nothing but illegal aliens, enough to house every single person who actually did put it on the line for this country. The vets that went out there that broke their minds and broke their bodies. Go find yourself a single veteran that does not have at least a rateable condition. Maybe they don't have a VA rating, but I assure you, every one of them carries some sort of damage, either in their mind that they constantly are waking up and dealing with, even if they don't tell you, or it's in their body. They got a bum knee. They got a bum back. They came back and they're fine. as far as you can tell. But every day when they lay their body down to rest, there is a problem that they are carrying because of carrying a heavy pack, because of standing endlessly in the circus they did, for doing exposure or getting injected with nonsense that you didn't have to get injected with in your job. It's a thing. It's a universal experience for veterans, whether you served overseas or not. And if you did overseas, you probably got something else crap thrown on you. Does that mean that you're a great human being because you're a veteran? No, there's a bunch of shitbags that are veterans. If you guys don't know that, go meet some veterans. Like, my friends are a mixed bag, and people who I served with were a complete mixed bag. Some of them got thrown out for, like, doing meth while they were on an army base when we were in the Air Force. Like, people do all kinds of crap stuff. It doesn't mean that you're a saint because you served, but it does mean that you probably carry some burdens. And shouldn't we be worried about those people, even if they're turds, more than somebody who came here, plopped out a baby? And we love babies. Seraphin House loves babies. But I do think that we should actually prioritize the only things that we can handle. We only can affect so much in the world. Donald Trump says, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. When asked if everyone was entitled to due process, this is kind of an analogous story. This is the reason why I had it up there. It's analogous to the thing on whether or not he's going to pick and choose from the Constitution. Isn't that fair game at this point? Haven't we decided it's fair game for you to go, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer? Don't we have somebody on the Supreme Court in that building right there? Ketanji Brown Jackson, whatever the hell she wants to go by these days. She's not a biologist. She couldn't even tell you what a woman is, even though the left constantly lionizes women. It does seem like it's a fair say that I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a professional at interpreting law. But what did he also say earlier? How about common sense? We'd like to go with common sense right now. We would like to see an America that actually turns on common sense, and they have a hard time doing it. Let's do a couple other little quick stories here. A judge issued a permanent block of Donald Trump's executive order targeting Perkins Coie's law firm. This is coming from ABC News. The ruling is a rapid rebuke of the government's actions. If you want to know why being a lawyer probably doesn't mean anything about whether or not you have any common sense or whether you can read plain text, I don't actually hold lawyers' opinions necessarily on any kind of higher power unless they've proven to be someone who is an honest operator, and oftentimes that's not the case. This federal judge on Friday, this is coming just before the weekend, issued a permanent ruling barring the Trump administration from implementing the executive order that they put out, saying that Perkins Coie could not have a security clearance, describing Donald Trump's effort to crack down on law firms as an unconstitutional and unprecedented attack on the basic foundations of rule of law. That is all the scaffolding, because when you get right down to it, there is nothing in the Constitution that says that you have a right to have the secrets of the state because you're a law firm. What the actual hell are we talking about? And by the way, is this judge, whose name is, I think, Beryl, yeah, there it is, Beryl Howell. It's an odd name, Beryl Howell, U.S. District Judge in D.C. She quoted Shakespeare, of all things, and said the first thing we do is let's kill all the lawyers. It's a cringe-worthy plot twist on the theatrical phrase, let's kill all the lawyers, that Executive Order 14230 says. It's an approach of let's kill the lawyers I don't like, sending a clear lawyers that lawyers must stick to party lines or else, is what she put in her writing. Well, if that's the case, shouldn't they reinstate my security clearance immediately? And that of Garrett O'Boyle, and that of Marcus Allen and Steve Friend? Shouldn't everybody be entitled to a security clearance and then the due process by which you can remove it? This is a DC-based attorney who is backing whatever she likes, completely in opposition to any sensibility. By the way, there is some strong case law that says otherwise. Navy versus Egan, which was adjudicated in 1989, tells us that we have no right to a security clearance, as you might expect. It's not a thing that they have to grant you. And you have no right to appeal a security clearance being pulled, which is why I am so strong and so aggressive on people like Tulsi Gabbard going through and revoking them writ large. You have no right to a clearance. And a clearance doesn't grant you access to information. So let's say you do have that. What do people do with their security clearances? Think about every single intelligence community person that's paraded out on NBC and ABC and CNN and so on and so forth. What do? They say what they used to do. And they imply, because they have a current active national security clearance, that they also somehow can read everything. Every one of you out there that's ever had a top secret clearance like I have know exactly what you can and can't do. You don't have a lot of rights to anything. You need to have what's called a need to know. It's actually part of the NDA disclosure that you fill out when you get that clearance. Getting a security clearance gives you no access to anything. It doesn't give you a right to anything. So this is going to actually have no real effect other than these people can apply for jobs, the Perkins Coie folks, to represent certain people because they are in that place. And it's a big back-scratching friend. It's that big club that you're not in. All they're doing is they're saying, you must allow them to bid on the specific jobs and lobby on behalf of these people and so on and so forth, specifically because we have ordained them to be part of the club that you're not in. And that is that big scaffolding that runs all around our actual law, all the case law that's built out there when people don't do their freaking jobs. The Article 1 job of the legislator is to pass laws that the people that they represent want. You'd think that that would be actually of interest for folks. So I got a story of that actually happening here in Texas. It's supposed to happen at the local level. And of course, leftists are freaking the hell out about this. No standards whatsoever. We care about kids, but not wealthy kids, but not kids who actually have parents who are kicking into the money. This is a press release coming from Attorney General Ken Paxton, who is running to unseat John Cornyn, as far as I can tell. I haven't seen like any big push on this, but that's what needs to happen. Ken Paxton celebrates school choice for Texans and vows to defend the new law. Oh, so what we have, he says today, this was kicked in, I think on Friday. He says today, Texas parents and school children secured a major victory. Who secured it? The people that are being represented by those in the state legislature. Okay. It's a universal school choice bill. It's a historic step in ensuring that students will have the freedom to seek educational options that are right for them and not be trapped in schools that fail to meet their academic needs. In other words, this very important thing where you connect the mission, right, the task, with the purpose, the thing that you hope to achieve with the mission. How about that? How about government looking at it that its job is to keep force and fraud away from folks, and if it's going to serve and provide services, then it actually has to be of service. I had a friend who was a New Mexico State police officer. He retired. He had 30 plus years in, and he said he never told people that he was in the business of public service. He was never a public servant. But he wanted to be a person that was of service. And that is a slight distinction, but it's really important because a public servant just has to do what they're told. But somebody who is of public service sees that there is a good and serves values and tries to achieve the mission on behalf of the actual purpose, the commander's intent, or in this case, our founder's intent. Our founder's intent was that the government was meant to serve us, not that we were meant to be indoctrinated and therefore had to serve our government. And when you get it backwards, you end up pretty screwed up. He says they're not going to be trapped in these schools that fail to meet their academic needs. If radical activists and special interests sue to prevent children from receiving education that is best for them, I promise to vigorously defend the bill. Texas will provide educational freedom and school choice to our students. The opposition parties that were incredibly upset about this stuff, I went and read a bunch of it. What they stated was, we are now going to see less money available, and you're going to see good teachers who don't have jobs now in Texas schools. Anybody who's been paying attention knows how crazy that is. Because we are in a scenario right now where the purpose of the school is not to provide education or to give the information that parents want their kids to be indoctrinated with in their own values, or actually even just keep values out of it and just give them solid information that they can go make good decisions on. No, it is meant to indoctrinate towards a leftist agenda, and that is why they continue to add more and more administrators. The cost per student continues to go up. But the salaries of teachers are not keeping pace with it. I think a lot of people are not opposed to paying teachers, although teachers tend to be less and less qualified, and that's something. Less and less qualified people are taking cash. And in doing so, those people are more and more indoctrinated. When your school only exists to make sure that the school itself remains healthy, they have forgotten the fundamental mission. They have disconnected task and purpose. We did a whole show on that the other day. It continues to be the case. I think school choice is the one thing that keeps people accountable. And it's a lot of money, too. It's like $10,300 to $10,900 per student that you can apply if you're in private schools, $2,000 towards books and educational costs for people that are doing homeschooling. I guarantee you we spend at least that much. My wife asked me the other day, hey, can I spend $600 on books and curriculum for one of our daughters? Yeah, absolutely. And then the time and the cost and the opportunity cost of her not working under her master's, it's significant. It's worth it. Because our kids are worth it. That's part of the American dream, too. I get that people might want to come here because of that. I get that people may want to show up in the United States because they think their kids are worth it. But it turns out, if you break the law, you're also putting your kid at risk and potentially finding yourself back in Havana, Cuba. while your husband has to hang out in the United States because your husband's a U.S. citizen and you blew it. Isn't that like so simple? By the way, the left can't get it right. We're going to do a quick little move over to my buddies over at Shield Arms just because I'm thinking about them right now. I'm thinking about freedoms. I'm thinking about dollars. Also, we had somebody like send me a couple of like quote unquote ominous messages over email. You're next with an address. That was like what our weekend had. Like we had people that decided they were going to send whatever the hell that kind of threat is. I'll just let you guys know. I carry a Shield Arms handgun every day. It's a Glock 43X. I've got their mag well, I've got their mag release, and I carry their 15-round magazine. If you guys want to get your own Shield Arms upgraded mags for the small Glocks, highly recommend them. They make base plates for bigger Glocks as well. That's me out there on the range when I first demoed this thing. I've got 2 different pistols that are equipped this way. The website is shieldarms.com. The promo code is Kyle. It's KYLE. It'll give you 5% off. You can get the base plates. I carry a 20-round reload almost everywhere when I go in big public because it's so small right now. And then the small handgun holds 15 plus 1. So that's a pretty high capability. It's a really decent little pistol package. And these guys are basically like, hey, how can we make the smallest, most capable thing for somebody that wants to be a individual first responder, that wants to be able to take their own safety in their own hands? We do that here. I don't have to worry about like whether or not there's a cop. I don't have to lean on the government in the same way that all of our foundational members of this nation looked at it. They thought that their personal safety was their own personal responsibility. That's what the first and the Second Amendment are about. You should be able to speak and you should be able to defend yourself for whatever speech you have. Guys, I've shot this gun all the way out to like 85 yards too. So like, it's not that hard to do. You can shoot much further than that on person side targets. If you guys want to check it out, again, shieldarms.com, promo code KYLE. I'm going to come back in here and pull this little story up because again, remember the big controversy of shipping people offshore? This is really funny. This is actually truly amusing to me. There was a big stink on the political left. God forbid we take people that came to the United States illegally and ship them to another country. We offshored our prisoners. And then Donald Trump was floating the idea, well, what if we just offshore all of our people, including American citizens, and house them in prisons that are not in America? And they went, due process, rule of law, Constitution, all this crap. Where is it at? Here it is. It's a choice to obey the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. We don't know. He's not a lawyer. He doesn't know about due process. They're all crying about that, right? And then you get to the funny part. Donald Trump decides to troll again. I don't think this is a great troll. I think Alcatraz is awesome as a tourist location. I think it's cool as a place physically. It's like somebody asked me, like, would you, we were in 8th grade. I visited it as part of an 8th grade trip. And I was like, dude, I would totally live here. He's talking about reopening Alcatraz as a prison. And apparently is signing an order to do that. Just that. For anybody who's from the Bay Area, that's pretty amusing. He said that he's going to be directing his administration to reopen and expand Alcatraz, the notorious former prison on an island off the coast of San Francisco. It's in the Bay. I used to live right at the top of the street where I was on Bay Street. And you could step out of my little apartment building and look right into Alcatraz, especially when there was no fog. It's a beautiful location. Pretty funny. Makes me think of The Rock. There were movies when I was a kid about this. He said, for too long, America has been plagued by vicious and violent and repeat criminal offenders, the drags of society who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering. He's not wrong, by the way. If we're a serious nation, in times past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from anyone that they could harm. That's the way it's supposed to be. So now he's going to get the Department of Justice, the FBI, HSI, Bureau of Prisons to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. It will serve as a symbol. It is a symbolic thing. And now they're mad about it, right? They're upset. They're so upset. How dare he? Is it financially reasonable? No. Is it symbolic? Yes. Is it funny to troll? I think so. Does he actually mean to do this? I don't know. I actually don't know. I kind of hope not. I love Alcatraz. I think it should be a place people could visit. It is an incredible location, especially in today's age with the ability we have to like ship things over there. It would be better off as a resort than it would be. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful when you go there. The views are stunning. You're in this basin looking up at all the pieces of, you can see the San Francisco. What they said, the reason that it was such a horrific place to be housed, by the way, having done the tour there, the horrific reason for housing there is that at night, the sounds of merrymaking on the wharf and the sounds of the city life bustling around and people living in freedom, it can waft over the waters and it can be heard through the windows. And so people that were sitting in the prison could hear people living their lives freely and know that it was completely beyond their touch. And that's why it was such a difficult place to do time in, because they were in such close proximity. They could actually see the lights, right, of the city where people were living back when San Francisco was not a place that was a prison in and of itself. And at that time, those folks they would lose hope. It makes sense in some ways. Again, it's symbolic, but they can't get themselves together. They can't get their ducks in a row for this. I got two more stories. This one was actually really funny. PBS CEOs crying about not getting funding. Donald Trump is talking about targeting their funding. So I went to the PBS website this morning, and the first thing I saw was this banner that I threw up here. It's in all red. It blocks out the entire screen on your computer. PBS News. Support PBS NewsHour. Your tax-deductible donations ensure our vital reporting continues to thrive. Donate here. PBS CEO says, we've never seen any circumstances like this after Donald Trump is targeting their funding. That's being covered by CBS because they all cover for each other. God forbid. The CEO's name is Paula Kruger. She said on Sunday, we've never seen a circumstance like this where Donald Trump's executive order aimed at cutting federal funding to two major public broadcasting systems, PBS and NPR. You know, those such balanced things that they represent all Americans, kind of like our clip with Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen. Democrats and Republicans, right? Well, F Republicans, he said. That seems to be the attitude that these people live on. And so just to prove it to you, I decided to go here. I went and looked at what are their top stories. These are all coming from March 4th and March 5th. These are the top stories. There's 6 of them that are being covered by PBS Weekend News. Number 1, a family planning clinic loses Title X funding over statements supporting DEI. Those are abortion clinics, by the way, folks. I went and read the story about that. So they're very mad about abortion clinics losing money when they support women's BS and DEI. And I mean women's DS because none of those things are on American values. They also have a story covering Spitfire Chronicles, the daring flights of American women pilots during World War II. Okay. Got it. They also have an interesting story, like we talked about here on the Kyle Seraphin show the other day, why young adults are lonelier than ever and what can be done to help them. Probably getting off the internet. We know that right away. They got another story that's totally not partisan, talking about vaccine hesitancy, driving a spike in pediatric flu deaths. They're celebrating the death of 216 children from the flu this year. By the way, the only people that historically die from the flu, statistically, are very, very young people whose immune systems cannot handle it and very, very old people. And that happens every year, all the time. They're talking about a 15-year high. We don't believe in institutions anymore in the same way. We don't trust their numbers. We saw what they did with COVID numbers. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in that. But there you go. Vaccine hesitancy. So that's a shot at the HHS. How about this one? The New York Times investigations finds that there's no evidence linking many of the deported Venezuelans to Tren de Aragua. Oh, so what they're saying is the New York Times has the ability, and by the way, I checked into all these stories just to kind of see them real quick. The New York Times has the ability to vet the information that comes in through FISA, which we were told was a good thing, and other sort of law enforcement means, including confidential informants, historical knowledge and databases, all kinds of things that are not published because they are not actually prosecuted. It's actually not illegal to be in a gang until very recently with this Trump administration movement where they're calling them terrorists. There was a time when just being in a gang, it's not illegal. It's just a thing that we associate you with criminal actors, and so you have to have more scrutiny. Anyway, the New York Times is apparently capable of vetting and is more reliable than our DOJ. They can't have it both ways, right? Because they loved the FBI when it was going after Christians and calling them terrorists. It loved the FBI when they were going after Trump supporters and calling them terrorists as J6ers. These people will flip on a dime. They've got no standard whatsoever. And then the last one is my most favorite. Why don't we find a way to turn this into real scare tactics? How shorting staffing at the National Weather Service could put lives at risk. I kid you not. There is a story at PBS talking about if you don't have enough people working for the National Weather Service, people could die. I won't hit you with the people who could die thing, but you guys know what I think about that. Pretty wild. Let's do a little bit of lighter news. There are people lobbying left and right and attempting to get their person from the College of Cardinals named to be the next pope. It's a big deal for Catholics. Donald Trump tweeted out a picture of himself or posted it over on True Social. It was like an AI generated thing with him wearing the Pope outfit, putting a hand up and doing the Pope thing. And people either thought that was funny, which I think it's a funny troll. Who cares? That's the joke that a lot of people that are Catholic would make because we're regular people with a good sense of humor. And then there's people that like decided to take it on the nose. And of course, they're the same people that are righteously indignant about other stupid things that Donald Trump does. He's a mixed bag. He's trolling. Is it a great look for the American president to be trolling the College of Cardinals during conclave? I don't know. Probably not. But these guys are out there doing social media now. So that's pretty funny too. So you got a whole story about how, for the first time, probably in the history of the world in 2025, and in direct contradiction from what happened in 2013, we are seeing cardinals going to social media, and they are advocating and giving insight into their mindset as they go into this conclave, which is a very weird and secretive process. And the whole thing is strange. And I don't get into the church politics because it's not my bag. Like most people that are probably attending the Catholic Church, like how they do this, even who they choose as a pope is not going to affect the way that I practice my faith. And I think a lot of people feel that too. Like if Pope Francis was saying that blessing gay marriages is fine, that doesn't change the way that I feel about it. Just like it doesn't change the way most of your Catholic neighbors are out there thinking about it. But it is interesting that they're out there getting more transparent. As the world moves forward, it becomes more transparent. This is a cardinal out of Tokyo who was riding on a bus with a bunch of guys. There's a whole bunch of these people. They all have social media accounts. Some of them have bigger followings than others. We even talked about it on the call-in program, so you guys can check out our call-in program from last Friday night. So we'll do that. So in honor of that, that's where our palate cleanse is going to go. But I just want to say, like, I keep seeing all of these standards pushed across. And the last one that I want to touch on, which makes me sick, is when, again, this is government mission divorced from the actual mission itself, or its purpose now is not the mission. Was one story from NPR. So we talked about PBS. I wanted to do an NPR story. This was a big to-do yesterday, as far as I could tell on social media. An exhibit honoring victims of gun violence at the ATF headquarters was taken down. So you got members of like Parkland families and other people whose family had pictures up on this wall display are very, very upset because the ATF headquarters has taken it down. In addition, by the way, the Trump administration has submitted a budget for like $468 million less than last year. They did the same thing with the FBI. There's a whole bunch of these places that have basically been listed as being less funding. They want to reform and streamline the FBI with $545 million less than the year before. The DEA losing $212 million. And the ATF, the refocusing ATF enforcement and regulatory priorities, $468 million less. They want to focus less on going after the Second Amendment and more about, doing the things that it's supposed to be doing. The fact of the matter is the ATF is supposed to be a tax organization. So you explain to me how we end up with this place where the purpose is the ATF celebrates quote unquote gun violence victims in their main headquarters in the hallway lobby, when in reality, the entire purpose of the ATF was to collect taxes on alcohol and tobacco. Firearms was added in after the National Firearms Act of 1934. It's a relatively new idea that there would even be a law enforcement mission. So seeing Trump kind of refocus that, of course, there's going to be pushback on it. Again, double standards left and right. These people don't care about rule of law. They care about using weaponized government to create victims. And I'll lastly say this. If you're upset about them taking this thing down, then you should also be demanding that Mothers Against Drunk Driving and Students Against Drunk Driving have an entire wall at the Department of Transportation that honors the victims of vehicle violence. The victims of vehicle violence, the people that have been killed by automobiles. We don't do that. DOT is supposed to handle roads and infrastructure. ATF is supposed to handle taking our tax dollars, which we don't even like in the first place, to just basically regulate some nonsensical laws that Congress could to infringe on our Second Amendment, because again, none of these people actually care about the words of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, but I can read what it says. And it shall not be infringed. Anyhow, that's what that is. Okay, we're going to do a palate cleanse in just a second. Before we do, let me just remind you guys, if you're watching our program, and I do appreciate you doing so, please make sure you're supporting us by following us, turning on notifications. I never see them on Rumble, even though I have them on, so you can also turn them on over on YouTube. If you want to watch over there, I did a whole video over on Locals explaining the difference between the two and monetization. If you're curious, we open up the books for you. Again, it's rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin, youtube.com/@Kyle Seraphin. We're also on X, @Kyle Seraphin. You can stream there too. Locals, you can find us at kyleseraphin.com. You get our Sunday sit down on Saturdays. You also get access to the phone number for the call-in show. So if you want to be part of that, it's $5 a month. You can just support us. That's what the option is. And lastly, over on Spotify, you can find us and you can support the program by going to kyleseraphinshow.com. It's a free app. You can share it with anybody you like. If you're like, hey, have you heard this guy? You want to share it with a text message? That's how you do it. kyleseraphinshow.com. Send it over there. Leave a comment. I will respond to many of them on all those places. And again, here's the back shot of what we're working in. This is just an extra room in the house, folks. It's just a regular dude sitting at home trying to shine light on things that make sense to me. And if they make sense to you too, I appreciate you guys sharing that around. Let me give this to you real quick because we normally skip it over. If you want to write to the show for whatever reason, and I don't know why you do, but you do. Some of you do, and people have been sending me stuff, so I appreciate it. I've got a lovely check here from the King James Bible Church. A big thank you to you folks out in Utah. Ms. Brown sent me something as well. We got a postcard with Billy the Kid. You can send stuff like that and a pair of overalls I got last week, which we won't talk about right now. 9070 West State Highway 29. It's Suite 110, Box 509, Liberty Hill, Texas, 78642. That's the address. We'll put it over in a show description at some point. If you guys are in the chat, you'll probably see it. Miss Rose Lopez will send it over there. It was by your request. So we do appreciate you guys. If you want to send something interesting, don't send me any live animals, please. And how about a little palate cleanse? Because we need it today. How about a palate cleanse about cardinals and the conclave? And how come we've never had an Irish pope? This is some interesting ideas that the Irish cardinals are floating out at the moment.
There's never been an Irish pope. One of us? Yeah, well, I don't see why not. I already have a few ideas we could run on.
Okay, what?
Well, increasing the alcohol percentage of the altar wine. Oh. Okay. Sunday morning mass starts at 11 a.m., not 8:30.
Oh, it's way too early.
It's a weekend day. Come on.
Correct.
The communion wafer.
Huh?
Yeah, sure. It could be bread.
Yeah. Huh?
Or it could be potato.
You mean crisps?
Exactly. Cheese and onion flavour. Lads, they'll be queuing around that block.
If the church starts doing cheese and onion flavor potato chips for the host, I don't know if I could go back. But anyway, that's fun stuff. I love it. I love people having a good bit of fun of it. And there's something about an Irish accent that makes us laugh and think that they're all drunk for some reason. All right. God bless all of you. Speaking of that, thanks for being part of the program. I look forward to seeing you again throughout this week. We start live at 09:30 Eastern time. If you ever want to catch the live chat, that's 8:30 here in Central. In Texas, America. I don't know what time it is on the other coast. You guys have other weird time zones, but check us out. We look forward to seeing you again. Have a fantastic day and a good start to your week.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.